Some testimony today about what is happening in America right now. This is Ari on measles vaccinations.
If trust in vaccines is diminished, if moms do not take their kids in to get vaccines, older people don't get vaccines, what will that mean in terms of our ability to save lives if, God forbid, another pandemic takes place?
So we're already beginning to see that as we're seeing childhood vaccination rates decrease. For example, measles is down to about 92.8%. That leaves over 200,000 kids now at risk for measles. So we are at risk for measles outbreaks. And for the next type of pandemic, a novel pathogen, with some of the staff cuts we have faced, we have less ready responders, we have less visibility into global pathogens at this time as well.
So, you know, I'm not great at putting a picture around a statistic. 92.8% still sounds like a big number. But if you believe that every death of a child from a preventable disease is a single tragedy that destroys an entire family, there are 200,000 ticking time bombs that could destroy 200,000 families.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems with Trumpism is that you never see sort of the second order effects. So, for example, there's the question of herd immunity. One of the reasons why we almost eradicated measles was because we had so many vaccinated people that there was no way for it to spread. And you can be, you know, this means that older people are vulnerable. This means that people who are vaccinated but not for a long time ago, you know, are vulnerable. And it means it just opens the door to all kinds of scenarios that are bad. What I thought was the most interesting and important part of this hearing in my mind was when we heard Dr. Menares be brave in a way that we have not seen. So, you know, these are these employees, these federal employees who did not come here to get rich. Be brave and say, you know, I left because I do this because of my integrity, and I refuse to give that up. And if you think of all the people who have caved to Trump, you know, the billionaires and the, you know, the politicians, and here is someone who does not have a ton of power, and she is saying, you know, I do this job because of my integrity.
Well, and what's amazing is she was their pick.
Yeah.
So she was the person they picked, and they underestimated her. And I think you've even had some Democrats on the committee who didn't vote for her nod to that. This is her opening statement that gets to that on holding the line.
On August 25th, I could have stayed silent, agreed to the demands, and no one would have known. What the public would have seen were scientists dismissed without cause and vaccine protections quietly eroded, all under the authority of a Senate-confirmed director with unimpeachable credentials. I could have kept the office, the title, but I would have lost the one thing that cannot be replaced: my integrity. Some may question my motives or mischaracterize my words. That is part of public life, but I am not here as a politician. I'm here as a scientist, a public servant, and a parent committed to protecting the health of future generations. The question before us is whether we will keep faith with our children and grandchildren, ensuring they remain safe from the diseases we fought so hard to defeat: polio, measles, diphtheria, whooping cough, and many others. Undoing that progress would not only be reckless, it would betray every family that trusts us to protect their health.
That was the whole thing, the whole point.
And, you know, you had two doctors, right? Cassidy is a doctor, and Menares is a doctor, and they're talking about science. And she's telling us this horrifying statement where RFK says, you know, none of this is, there's no scientific evidence of this. And we know that, in fact, there is tons and tons of scientific evidence. So I think it was a really profound moment in a, you know, a case for truth versus untruth, not truths.
Well, I think it was that, but I think it was also an example of the price that we will all pay as a public to the Senate being lackeys to Donald Trump. I think there are a lot of stories that are in the news day after day after day in a way that health isn't. But to your point, Cassidy's a doctor.
Yeah.
Cassidy knew Kennedy was the wrong person to lead this agency, and he voted for them anyway.
Yeah.
That, to me, is its own chapter in the history books of this time.
For sure, and there are a lot of doctors who are senators, and most of them, the Republicans, all voted for him. And I was sort of shocked because I thought that he knows better. And when you hear him in this testimony interviewing her, you see that he knows he made a huge mistake. I mean, that does nothing for us now, but
I'm going to ask you guys.